So there are really three major operations on the lathe. We've looked at facing, smoothing out this end. The other is turning, which is reducing the diameter and smoothing this side. And then the last is boring. Now, drilling is a type of boring, but this is the actual boring tool, and this will produce a much more accurate hole. In the previous video, we used a 3/8 inch drill with no starter hole, and we know that this hole is off-center. So this is going to give us a much more concentric hole, and give us a more perfect center on that hole. This tool is what comes in the Shoreline set. It's a high-speed steel boring bar. It's obviously, due to its short length, going to have some limited uses, some limited depths of holes that it's going to be able to cut. But this should be fine for what we're doing here. It'll be more than fine. And then we'll look at another boring bar here in a few moments. Few safety precautions. Make sure that the tool is going to easily clear. So I've already run the tool in and back out. I know how deep the hole is. In this case, we're going to go in, and then we're going to set our depth of cut, and then we're going to back out slowly. That's the preferred method because it helps clear the chips a little bit more. The other thing on boring is make sure you put some lubricant in the hole there. That's always going to help keep the cutter cool and help clear the chips out a little bit better. So now I'm at the base of that hole. You can hear a little bit of rubbing. We're going to bring the cutter across. Now we know that hole is out of round, so we're going to try to take a fairly shallow cut here on our first paths, since we know it's going to be an interrupted cut. And then we're just going to go straight back in. We want to make sure that we don't crash this into the bottom of the hole. Taking a little bit heavier cut here. And that's boring. Now that hole is going to be much more concentric and round than a drilled hole is going to be. We're probably going to get a much better, much smoother surface finish in there as well. The hard part with boring is getting your depth of cut right so that you don't end up with steps on the inside. You could hear that I would go in and bump the tool on the back of the hole. That's not very good for the tool, and it's not going to create a super accurate depth. But that's something you have to get a feel for and really watch your handle rotations on. So there I was just enlarging the hole a little bit more. You could definitely hear when I would go to the bottom of that hole and then start to set the cut depth that I was going to make. Since I wasn't moving the cutter, we got a little bit of chatter in there. Once we started to back the cutter out and actually make the cut, that chatter went away pretty quick. Now that hole is a little bit larger, I'm going to show you another type of boring tool and another tool holder. So to start with our boring, we were using this high-speed steel tool that came in the 3-piece tool set with Sureline. Now, a much higher end option, and these can be fairly expensive, is a carbide insert type of boring tool. This is a 3/8 inch diameter. This tool post here is really only meant for 1/4 inch tools. I thought it would fit a 3/8 inch tool, but the 3/8 inch tool still rides up too high and becomes at too much of an angle on the rocker post. So if you do want to use a 3/8 inch tool, you're either going to have to modify that post, which is certainly an option, or Sureline makes this post. Now this post has, as you can see here, a normal area for holding a 3/8 inch thick tool. This is not a rocker style, so on this unit you will have to use shims to get the tool height set correctly. And we could possibly put that tool, this bar in there and hold it. It's certainly capable of doing that because this bar has flats on top and bottom. But to get a better hold, this tool post also has a hole through it, and this is specifically meant for a 3/8 inch round boring bar, as we have. And we're going to go ahead and slide this guy on and put it in the tool post and use it to enlarge this hole a little bit more. So we've got this larger boring bar installed. I've actually put the tool post on the back T-slot of the slide. This does extend quite a bit more of the tool out front here, but I actually wanted to do that to find out about the rigidity of this tool. This tool is definitely meant for going much deeper. The length of it will allow you to do that, but to get the best cuts, you would normally want that tool to be slid as far as you can into the tool post. But let's see how much, if any, vibration and any problems that this causes with the tool being far out. Now with the carbide, and particularly on aluminum, we're not going to need lubricant nearly as much. What the lubricant is going to do is stop the aluminum from welding to the carbide if it does get too hot, which is also one of the main reasons you use lubricant with high-speed steel, is to prevent that welding. So that does work quite nicely. I will have to see if I can find some smaller versions because I do really like these carbide inserts. They are much more forgiving as far as feed rate goes. They hold up to the heat better, things along those lines. The boring bars are quite a bit more expensive compared to the turning tools. The turning tools, some of them you can get fairly cheap. Sureline makes some that I believe are $40 each, or you can get a pair for like $50. I can't remember the exact numbers. These are Anytime tool. So I purchased my lathe cutters as in this set from Anytime Tools. The boring bar I already had, it's actually the smallest bar that I have for my larger lathe, and this is probably the largest bar you would want to use in this small lathe. So boring, fairly simple. As I mentioned in one of the tool videos, this is also very similar to how you would do internal threading, except the tool is different. The tool is pointed at a 90-degree angle perpendicular to the bar, with a 60-degree included angle for cutting the threads properly. So now we've officially done boring. One of the last items that we're going to do is some grooving and finally a cut off. Those will be coming up in the next video after I clear off some of these chips.